Today, we are going to be testing out Gemma 3, which is a brand new AI agent from Google. And essentially, what you can do with this, with the brand new update that came out, is you can run this locally. It's called Gemma 3 270M, and it's the compact model for hyper efficient AI. So, we're going to be testing out today, step by step, showing you exactly how it works. And also just testing it and see how it performs. Now, you can see it literally just came out a couple of days ago. And essentially, this is part of the Gemma 3 models. Now, if you want to install this, it's actually completely free and you can run it locally on your laptop. Let me show you exactly how to do that. So, first of all, what you're going to do is you're going to get to Olama. So, go to olama.com. This is free to download. Once you've downloaded it, then you can go to the model section over here and you can see all the different models, right? So, you can, for example, run like Quen 3 or Llama 3.1 and that sort of thing, right? The one that I'm going to be using is Gemma 3. So, Gemma 3, you can use Gemma 3 latest, for example, like this, and you can actually input text and images like you can see right here. You can also use Gemma 3.4b, 270M is over there as well. And then if you want to run any of these, for example, like Gemma 3, we can go to the terminal over here, right? So if you're on a Mac, press Command Space Terminal, open that bad boy up. Who else we got here? We got Passive saying yes. Sports Nutritionosis says would. And everyone says hello. All right, cool. Is it better than OSS? I would genuinely say yes. And the reason for that is I'll show you in a second, right? So if we open this up, we're going to play that now. And what it's going to do is essentially open this up, right? So you can see if we zoom in here, let me pull this full screen in the terminal. And there are many ways you can access this. You don't have to use the terminal, but I want to show you how you can run it locally offline because then it's private and it's free. And, you know, you're running the AI on your laptop. What a time to be alive. So, for example, we put Olama run Gemma 3 over here. Then we can type in a message. So, for example, if we say, okay, who even are you, mate? Right? And then it's going to say, I'm Gemma, large language model by the Gemma team at Google. And you see how fast it is. Bear in mind that I am literally streaming at the same time as I'm showing you this, right? So it's really not taking up much memory on my laptop at all. Because if I've got Chrome open, I've got my camera recording, I've got my audio recording, I've got this recording locally, then this is incredibly easy to start using, right? Tantrum No says, Julian, hello, brother man. Thanks for teaching us. And Ryan says AGI time. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So we've got this open. We can actually open this up in two different tabs. If you want to know something really interesting, right? So if you actually press Command and T, you can actually open up multiple tabs inside your terminal, and then you can switch between two different models of Gemma 3, right? So you can see here I'm running Gemma 3, and also here I'm running Gemma 3, right? Quite interesting, isn't it? Because then what you can do is you can run OSS. So you could have, for example, if you don't know what OSS is, basically this is ChatGPT and it's open source version of its AI, right? And you could have that running in one tab, whilst you have Olama 3 running the other tab, right? We're going to X off that, close that, and then we'll get back to this. Let's just give it a test, right? So I don't know if this is going to work, and I'm not saying it's perfect. So, you know, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to say how many R's are in strawberry. So we're going to type that in and we'll see if it can figure it out. So it's actually counting 4 R's in strawberry, right? So it's not that great for logic, as you can see, and I just want to be fully transparent. But yeah, basically you can see here. Now, Steven says, awesome. Yeah, happy to help. And User X says you can use LM Studio instead of Llama if you like UI. Instead of running on command line. Yes, you can use LM Studio. I've got that set up as well. So if we go over here, this is, let me show you LM Studio. It looks a lot nicer than Olama, but it's a bit more heavyweight, right? So you can see here all the different things. You can, you know, all these crazy pop-ups and stuff. And then you can go inside the chat. You got developer, etc. You got my models, and then you can, you know, find models, install them, etc. Okay. So you can actually go to Discover over here, and this is inside LM Studio. Now, if you want to download LM Studio and start using the newest version of Google, then you can get that at lmstudio.ai. I'll plug it in the AI profit board if you want to get that. So just go to the SAP section, whole collection, and then you'll see all these different links down here, right? We've got a bunch of one-click AI agents who also built with Gemma inside the AI profit boarding, link in the comments description. But essentially, we can see here, we've got, so GPT OSS is one of the latest models, but we want to be using Gemma. So let's just see if it's got Gemma 3. Yeah, so we've got a few different options here for Gemma 3. This one was updated 40 days ago, 158 days ago. What else we got here? Have we got the latest model in here? I actually can't see it. Oh, there we go. There we go. Look, 270M. Right, so you can download that. I'm going to X off GPT OSS because I wasn't impressed, my friend. Steve says, awesome. Ryan says, hello, sir. Can you tell me it's going to be worldwide, like Africa, Asia? Yeah, you can use this anywhere, right? Like you just go to LM Studio and then download it. So you can use it from anywhere in the world. Don't worry. And AI Content says, hello, Goldie, real avatar. Yeah, I mean, genuinely, if you look at the comments from the video yesterday, people were genuinely asking me, right? Genuinely, am I the AI version of me? Right? They were asking me that on a live stream. I couldn't believe it. But that must be either I'm terrible on live streams or my AI is really good on normal videos and they just couldn't tell the difference. But yeah, so you can go inside LM Studio here. We've got Gemma 3 running. You can see the model at the top, right? So you can use that here. And then you can just go off and start using this, right? So if we say, okay, are you working, mate? And yeah, there you go. And you can see how fast it is, right? This is offline, this is local, and you can discard it, you can refresh it, whatever, right? So if we say, okay, let's take a blog that I quite like, a little quote. We'll go over here and we'll grab a prompt that I like to use often. All right, so we're going to take this prompt in a second. This is for SEO content, but I just want to give you an idea of what it can do. So we're going to go there, plug this in, then we're going to type in the keyword. We're going to type SEO training in Japan, right? And bear in mind, like, wow, this is insanely fast, isn't it? This is insanely fast. But yeah, it's writing out the content now. And yeah, so you can easily create like SEO optimized content, like you see right here. Here's the option. So it's writing the content. It's not like the best content writer in the world, is it? It's not like going to be Claude 4 or something like that. But you can see how easy it is to create this content, and then you can just proofread it, edit it, pop it on your website, boom, shakalaka. You've created content offline. Now, I don't think that's the main strength of it, but you can use it for that, and that was a pretty cool little test right there, and it worked extremely fast. Air Content says, oh, Aaron says, what's your laptop spec? Yeah, so I'm on an M3 Pro. M3 Pro is what I'm using, right? So it's not even like the latest Mac. And then Sporter says, Julian, I'm now teaching a class based on what I learned from you on video. You legend, Sporters. Shout out to you, taking action. That's what I like. Aaron says, I have 100% time for real, Julian. And user says, which configuration are you using, Julian, to run this LMS locally? All right, so just to recap, we're using LM Studio, then we're using Gemma 3 270M, and I'm running this on a MacBook M3 Pro. And then Aaron says, I think AI Julian fools half the people, but if you're used to Sims, it's quite annoying. And then Julian Brinkmeyer, another Julian, always good to meet other Julian, says hi. All right, so that's basically how you can run it in two different ways, right? So we talked about two different ways. Bear in mind, these are both open. So it's unbelievable how fast this is. Again, it's not the best for logic, so don't use it for logic tasks. But if you want something lightweight to answer questions quickly, then you can either run it via Olama, right? You just use Olama like this, as you can see, and then we can close that, and then we can use LM Studio, right? So LM Studio has a much nicer UI, much easier to use. Again, both of these options are free. You can use them anywhere in the world, and it's completely easy to use, right? And then you can switch between them. You can check through your chats. You can discover more models, right? And there's so much freedom there. So much freedom. It's crazy, crazy world we live in. All right, so I'm going to close that now, and then I'm going to show you some other ways you can use this. So if we go to Open Router here, and then we're going to type in over here, we're going to type Gemma, right? And if you type in Gemma on Open Router, basically, you can see all these different models of Gemma in the top left. So, for example, here, you can see Google Gemma 3N, and it is completely free, right? So, for example, Aaron says, I wonder what they're like on a phone. Has anyone tried? I think Gemma, if I'm not mistaken, Google are designing because it's good for phones, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think yeah, they're designing it for phones, right? And that's the whole point of this. This is why it's so lightweight, is because they want it to run locally on phones, tablets, and laptops, right? So you can actually run it locally, and it is fast enough on a phone. And especially, you know, in the future, you can imagine as phones get more powerful and as AI gets more lightweight, this is probably the future of Google phones, right? And then you can see here, so it's optimized for on device, right? So for example, when I just showed you a minute ago, I had Olama running, I have a live stream running, I have LM Studio running, and the AI was taking it no problem. Whereas if you use GPT OSS, that was crazy slow when I was testing out. And then also it runs multimodally, right? Which means that it understands processes, audio, text, images, and videos. And even if you don't install it locally to your phone, what you can actually do is you can go over to AI Studio over here, and you can switch between all these different models and use them online too, completely free. Now, if you want to use the API, we can go back to OpenRouter, and you see inside OpenRouter, we've got Gemma and all these other ones, right? So free. I'm looking at some of these comments; they're pretty funny. But let's come back to that in a second. So Papa says, every time I open YouTube, I see your videos first. I appreciate that. That means you must like my videos. So I appreciate that. If you want to learn, by the way, how I'm growing and scaling a YouTube channel with AI, just join the AI Profit Boardroom. You'll find the 6-week YouTube roadmap inside there. You also get like 5 coaching calls a week. So you get everything you need. Dr. Ruben says, do you even sleep at night anymore? I do actually, yeah. So yeah, I take sleep pretty seriously. I like to sleep 8 hours minimum, absolute minimum. And then user says, can you discuss about fine-tuning this kind of SLMs due to this small size? If we fine-tune them, they may outperform the big LLMs. I've not really tested fine-tuning. Like it's not a specialty of mine. I don't want to be SEO and tell you I'm the best in the world at that. It's not, but I'm sure you can fine-tune it pretty cool. Right? And also you can, like, for example, input images and that sort of thing. And Mike says, how is instruction following or tool calling capabilities? That is a great question. That is a great question. All right, let's test it out, right? So, I mean, listen, if you want to see like, okay, what can it not do, right? If you want to see like, okay, what is it good at and what is it bad at, right? So, for example, if we take exactly the same prompt for creating content, right? Like you can see right here. So we'll take this one. We're going to plug that in. We'll plug it over to Gemini, but also plug that into Gemma in a second too. All right. So we're going to take that now. All right. So we're using Gemini 2.5 Pro, Google's most powerful model. Okay? And then if we compare that side by side versus Gemma, right, and we'll use what we got here. We got all these different models. We'll go with Gemma 3N, right, which is like the one designed for mobile. So if we run this side by side, right, exactly the same prompt. And you can see the content is still thinking. I mean, like, that's the other thing. This is, Gemma is not a thinking model, whereas Gemini 2.5 Pro is, right? And if we actually have a look here, we'll pull them up side by side. So let's pull these up. Here we go. And here we go. All right. So if we have a look here, so for example, Gemini 2.5 Pro, the ultimate guide to SEO training in Japan, how to dominate the Japanese market. Whereas this says conquer the Japanese SEO landscape, your guide to top tier rankings, right? So you can see how this content with Gemma, which is a lightweight model, and I'm not surprised, is a lot worse, I would say, right? The Gemini 2.5 Pro is going to feel a lot more natural. But the thing is, you can't run Gemini 2.5 Pro locally. You can't run it privately. You can't, for example, run it in LM Studio, and it's not free. It has limits. Also, it's not going to be usable on a phone unless you're using like the Gemini app, right? It's not like going to be installed to Gemini. So I think Gemma still has a long way to go. It is a lightweight model, but it's very impressive right now. And Rian says, I mean, AGI automation is possible in Western countries because of world-class infrastructure, but in developing countries, it's not possible for developing countries. And Mukesh says, what is the name of this agent? So we're using Gemma 3N here on this example, but Gemma 3 is the API we want to be using, right? You can see there's many different versions of it here. And then Falk says how to automate on web app movement and text input. Right. Okay. Yeah. So the way that I would do that is I would probably use something like web browser UI. Right. So I'm not going to run this right now because if I run web browser UI, then it is going to mess up my Chrome, which I have the stream running on. So you can use web browser UI that can browse the web and use the API and all that sort of thing. The other thing you can do here is, if I'm not mistaken, trying to think the name of the extension is inside the AI Profit Boardroom here. What we got here? Here it is. All right, so there's a Chrome extension. This one called Nano Browser, and you can use Nano Browser if you want to use like web app input, right? So basically what this can do is it can control your browser and all that sort of thing. So if we go to manage extensions, nano browser, details, here we go. And where is, there we go. All right. So you can use Nano Browser. It's been a while since I used it. Why is it not popping up here in the extensions? There we go. All right. So Nano Browser, you just have to click the drop down here. I'm actually going to pin it now so we can use this. And then this can control your laptop and everything, right? So for example, if we click on add new provider, then we can go to Gemini, and then you can switch between different models down here, right? So you can use, for example, you can use Gemini 2.5 Pro, and that's probably what I would use if you're using Google to do this. All right, so you can use Flash as well. And then you just grab an API key. So if we go to AI Studio over here, and then we're going to grab an API key. So I'm just going to grab one over here. I'll pull that up in a separate tab. Don't want to share my API key on a live stream. And then inside here, we're going to plug that in, hit save. Now we've got the API key ready to go. We just have to choose a model. So we'll go with 2.5 Pro, 2.5 Pro, 2.5 Pro. There we go. All right. And then if we just want to, test something basic, right? Then we can go inside here and we can say, right, okay, check. I mean, obviously you wouldn't do this normally, but I just want to show you. So check the price of S&P 500, hit send. You can control this with the mic as well, right? And now it's running the planner. And it's going to search for S&P price on Google. All right, so you can see it's now navigating to Google. It's analyzing the page. And it's using that to browse the web, right? And start using Google directly. So I'm not typing anything here. It's the AI controlling my browser and typing stuff in, right? And then it will start searching the web and that sort of thing. So that's essentially how you can do it. It's not perfect. It doesn't always seem to work, but essentially you can do that. You can also stop it at any time as well. And then, you can get it to control your laptop, browse, tweet, etc. And it is really, really cool. All right. So that's basically how I do it. If you want a full tutorial on that, go inside the AI Profit Boardroom, and then you can get the Nano Browser extension right here. Let's find it. Yeah, automate your browser with Gemini 2.5 Pro. All right, so that's inside the AI Profit Boardroom. Link in the comments description. So we've covered that. And then user X says, let's see what we got here. Julian, does Gemma have Google grounding, Google search feature similar to Gemini 2.5 Pro? I think so, but let's have a look here. So if we go over here, go to AI Studio, then from here, we are going to go to Gemma. I can't actually see it. Let's have a look in the advanced settings. Doesn't look like you can on that. Let's have a look. Yeah, actually, it looks like you can't from what I can see. All right, so if we switch to Gemini 2.5 Pro, you get a lot more functionality with this, whereas with Gemma, you don't, right? So Gemini Flash, you can use, for example, Google search, grounding, etc., but you can't seem to do that with Gemma. Mukesh says, could you put an idea in front of us about AGI timeline? Honestly, I'm not going to do that simply because I know that, most of the time, even experts are wrong 50% of the time, right? Like if you had an expert, if you could predict decisions, and if you could predict the future and be right more times than 50% of the time, then you can make, crazy money on the stock market or something like that, right? So like most of the time humans are wrong, right? Especially experts, because they have an over inflamed sense of importance and expertise, which I'm not going to fall into the trap of. So Abdul says, can you tell me, and also, it depends what you define as AGI. That's the other thing. Abdul says, can you tell me how we can make the interactive UI for an app like Duolingo? Yeah, sure. So what we can do over here, I'm trying to think of a way that we can show this. Yeah, let's use Gemini 2.5 Pro for this. So we're still using Google, which falls within the scope of this video. So we're going to switch over here to Canvas. We're going to use Gemini 2.5 Pro, and then we're going to say something like, let's get rid of Nano Browser. Let's go with something like, okay, design a UI like Duolingo. Right, so design an app plus UI like Duolingo. So we can go over there. What that's going to do is use a canvas. So make sure you have canvas enabled, and then it will start coding out here, right? And essentially, that's how you can start doing this. So that's starting to code now. It's just using mock data to create the code. But essentially, you can start coding with this. So whilst that's doing that, let's just recap on everything that I've shown you today, right? So I've shown you how to run Gemma locally in 2 different ways, how to use it free, how to use it privately. I've shown you how quick and powerful it is. I've also shown you the downfalls. So for example, it's not great at logic. It's not the best at writing, but it is very lightweight, and it's probably the future of creating and using AI on a mobile device, right? And then also, when it comes to controlling your browser, you can use Gemini 2.5 Pro. You can get a free API from AI Studio and then start using that. And also, if you want to use an API that can Google search around the web, then you can use something like, for example, the AI Studio with Gemini 2.5 Pro grounding, right? Now, if you want to start coding with Gemini 2.5 Pro, for example, like here, you can do this inside gemini.google.com, and you can see we have this kind of Duolingo style content, right? So which of these is apple, lamella, or il pane, right? Lamella. So you can use that. You can also, what you can actually do if you want to make this app even better or more challenging is, you can actually use the Gemini features. And also, this is all based on mock data, right? So if you wanted to build this out more, then what you could actually do is you could just go in the chat here and say like use real data or start building this out properly, etc. So that's basically it. Henk says good day from South Africa. Good day to you too. Green Goblin says thanks is not his digital avatar whilst he's getting out more leads and customers. Lol. And then thanks. And then Jules 2.0 tutorial, please. Yeah, so Google Jules, if you haven't seen it before, let's pull this up. So this is more technical on the technical side, but Google Jules is another update that actually came out from Google this week. This is an AI coding agent. Again, it is free. You can try it. So if we go to try Jules now, we can start using it. And then you get a daily limit. So just to be fully transparent, you get 300 coding requests per day. And that should start popping off. All right. Wisdom Seeker says, great work. Saw your avatar video popping up on YouTube whilst you're working on this. Automation is best. Boom. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then we've got this running in the background. All right. So you can actually connect to GitHub. That's how you get started on this, because it's going to work on your projects, or you're going to import a Git. But that's essentially how you can use it. Right. And then, for example, you can run like code bases. It's very similar to like ChatGPT Codex. So if you want to know exactly how this works, etc. So the new update just recently came out, and essentially, you can use it for coding and stuff like that. I'm not really a coder, but yeah, essentially that's how you can do it. All right, now if we go over to the other way that I was going to say, probably the final way that I'll show you today, is you can go to VS Studio, so Visual Studio. All right, like this. We'll close all of these tabs. And then you can run Visual Studio Code over here. And if we go to, for example, like client settings, you can run Olama in here. So if you want to run Olama, you can there, right? So if, for example, you can choose a model that you want to use, which is completely free, or you can go over to OpenRouter, and then inside OpenRouter, we can select Gemma. So just type in Gemma like that. You got all these different options. So it's Gemma 3 that you want to be using if it's the new version. And then you see all these different versions of it right here. And then we can click done. And boom, we can start go off and coding it, right? Hyper says, I just started using Gemma 3.27M and it's fast. Yeah, I would 100% agree with it. And Juan says, how can we start vibe coding with a proper backend and working platform as the next step from Lovable, Rapid, and similar? Yeah, so what I would recommend for that is you use something like Data Button, right? Data Button is really good for coding a backend. I actually built out a full job board using this. It works and integrates with Firebase and that sort of thing. And there's a full tutorial inside the AI Profit Boardroom, along with a custom GPT for prompting the Data Button. But yeah, if you want to build stuff that's more complicated, then you can use that. Right? Hyper says start using 270M and it's fast. And user says, can you please discuss about web scraping and web crawling using LLMs as well? Yeah, sure. So essentially, this is the way that I would do it. There's a couple of ways, right? So if we sign in here, let me show you one of the easiest ways, because you can do this for free if you want. So if we go inside, for example, NA10, right? I've got all the templates inside the AI Profit Boardroom. And then if we go inside this workflow, let's have a look what we got here. Yeah, so this is essentially, and we'll switch this to Gemma because I want to focus on Gemma today. All right. So if we put Gemma 3 over here, and this is connected to Firecrawl, right? Firecrawl is going to start searching the web for us, like so. And then inside the chat here, we can say, okay, keyword equals AI news, something like that. And the chat model is a little bit temperamental. So let's see what we got over here. Let's change this to T7B. And if this keeps messing up, what I'm going to do is just switch to Gemini 2.5 Pro. Let's try that. There we go. All right. So we use Gemini 2.5 Pro in the end, but essentially what we're doing here is we are going to use Firecrawl and start using that to generate responses. All right. So we use Firecrawl tool to search the web for answers. There we go. So it's use the Firecrawl tool over here. And then if we pull this up, so there's a few interesting things happening in the world of AI. So some news publishers are concerned that AI generated summaries, now top Google searches. Other news, a flirty Meta AI bot invited a retiree to meet, but he never got home. Let's have a look at that. Is that actually a true thing from today? Yeah, so that's from 3 days ago. So it is searching live data on the web, right? So essentially, let me break this down for you. I just wanted to check it works. So what we've got inside of NA10 here, you wanted to learn about scraping and that sort of thing, web crawling using LLMs. So the API itself, for example, if you're using Gemma or Gemini 2.5 Pro from Google, these can't connect to the internet. So what you have to do is you have to create a tool with your AI agent. And I would recommend Firecrawl because you can use it for free. You're going to plug in your credentials like you can see here. So you put authorization and then you put bearer space, your API key from Firecrawl. And then using JSON, you search the web. And then you can see here this AI agent can give you answers, right? You can even add a memory to the AI agent so that it can store memory, remember stuff, etc. And then it can remember your previous responses and that sort of thing. But the main thing here is you can use this LLM to start crawling the web, right? So that's one of the best ways to do it. And if you want to get the full template for that, it's inside the AI Profit Boardroom. Right, so if you go to the classroom, NA10 templates, and then Firecrawl Reddit bot, you've got the setup right here. And you can just download that template and import it in. Nice and easy. Robert says vibe coding isn't going to handle backends well. Not yet anyway. Yeah, so I would recommend Data Button. And then Julian's Sporter says, is there a free way to make an avatar? We do cover a couple of free options inside the AI Profit Boardroom. If you're in there, we'll show you some ways to create free avatars if you just DM me or post inside the community here. Very active community of cool people. And then Nor says, yes. James says, what programs are you using for the lower third pop-ups on the screen? So typically I use StreamYard. StreamYard is the best for streaming. And then Sporter says, Opal remains in theory at 2 NA10. Story for Deep Sleep says, do you fine tune models? I actually don't. I just don't bother. Right? Mainly because I don't have a need. I'm not really a coder or anything like that. And then OG says, Google's new AI tool is better than NA10 to automate content creation for YouTube. Yeah, if you haven't, I mean, it depends what you're using, right? But if you're talking about Veo 3, Veo 3 is very, very powerful. So what you can do here is, for example, you can go videos with Veo 3. You can even add a photo here, right? And then you can create videos directly in the chat. So you can say, for example, okay, grandma flying a rocket into space, something like that. And it will start generating a video of a grandma flying a rocket into space. So that's one way to do it, right? The other way inside Google is you can go to Gemini and then over in the top right, top left, click expand menu, click on storybook. And then inside the storybook here, you can see a bunch of different stories that we've created, right? So for example, like this one, it actually does come with audio, but I'm not going to play the audio. You can check out my video from yesterday if you want to see this. And then you can actually automate these storyboards. They're kind of like mini videos. I mean, they last a few minutes. And essentially, the image is generated with AI. The story is generated with AI. The audio is generated with AI. And that's one way to do it, right? So you can use Veo 3. You can use Gemini storybooks. Or the other way, if you want to use a free app from Google, is you can use Notebook LM, right? So Notebook LM, it can create really cool video content. So for example, if you go on video overview over here, I'll mute this. And if we play this one, for example, this is a video overview about my YouTube video. And essentially, it creates like a full animated video with voice over the top, right? Using the sources that I've loaded in. So that's one of the best ways to do this as well. So there's 3 different ways you can create videos with Gemini. I'm sure in the future there'll be even more. All right, now we've got a video of a grandma flying a rocket. Right, and then you can create multiple different versions of this video and then stitch them all together if you want to create something longer. Google's new AI tool Opal is better, interesting. I get a bunch of errors sometimes. Love it. Shout out to John, legendary man at the Goldie Agency. He is. If you haven't spoken to John, he's an absolute legend. If you've never spoken to John, join our free AI SEO mastermind group inside school. And John has posted in there several times. He's an absolute legend. I work with him at Goldie Agency. We work together, and he's absolutely fantastic. Right, so you can introduce yourself to John inside the school group right there. And let's keep going. AI content says OpenRouter always crashes when you. Yeah, it does. You're right there. It does crash a lot. It breaks a lot. Grandma is having the time of her life. She's having a great time. Look at that. She's absolutely loving it. And then Ezekiel says, hey, I need co-founders for my startup company app. Yeah, so if you want co-founders, join the AI Profit Boardroom, right? Because this is full of builders, all these different members who are interested in AI and in learning about AI, business owners, co-founders, entrepreneurs, etc. It's the best place to network with serious people who are learning about that stuff. And then Hyper says, I heard you can create an AI app using Gemini Canvas without using the Gemini API key because the Canvas also generates the API key. Yeah, you can. So what you can do over here, let's go back to that Duolingo app that we created, right? Like this one. So what you can do here is you can add Gemini features. And what that's going to do, if you click that bottom right, is it's going to now add new features, right? So it's going to add new features inside this app so that it's using the API key to create AI-driven explanations. You can do this inside Claude as well. Claude have it inside the artifacts feature. But yeah, it's absolutely awesome because it used to be a nightmare to integrate this stuff, right? Whereas now you can easily just set this up. So it says AI generated practice sessions. The practice tab now has a feature to generate a brand new practice quiz on demand. So that's coding out right now, as you can see. And it's going to build out a quiz into the app where we can start using the canvas to generate AI responses. So that's the way that you can do it. I've got a training on it from yesterday directly. But if we go now inside, let's have a look, practice, generate a practice session. So that's going to use the API and the AI from Gemini, right? And then, for example, here you can select the responses, right? So it's created a custom generated quiz. User says, any thoughts on creating an internal knowledge database to support your SLMs so that we can give our domain knowledge and outperform it? Yeah, so I actually have a sales trainer custom GPT that I've built. And yes, it's all trained on my data, right? You can also do this. You can also hire us to do it for you, right? So we've created all these custom GPTs, custom trained on my internal data to get the best out of it. Yeah, and that's one of the best ways to do it. But if you want to hire us to do it for you, we do that as a service. So feel free to book in a call. Link in the comments description to an automation page. All right, peeps. Thank you very much for joining the live stream today. If you haven't already, make sure you join the AI Profit Boardroom. It comes with 5 coaching calls per week. So if you want to join live calls like this, feel free to. If you want all my best trainings on AI automation, maybe you're just a complete beginner and you want to learn how to do everything step by step, you can get a 6-week AI automation masterclass with different homework, shows you how to build an AI agent in under 5 minutes, for example. And then also inside here, you've got a playbook of all the systems that I use inside my business. For example, like avatar videos, Twitter automations, newsletter automations, shorts automations, video to blog posts, etc. And all my best funnels as well. It's got funnel templates in there. All my best NA10 templates that you can just import, for example, like the Firecrawl one that we talked about today. Loads of other cool stuff in there, for example, like a NA10 viral reels workflow. And then also, if you're an agency, right? If you're trying to get clients, if you're trying to get leads for your business, we have a 6-week masterclass for AI agencies. And then we have tons of other stuff, like even our best AI SEO automations. But inside the YouTube AI section here, you can get a 6-week roadmap on how to grow your channel and get more leads, traffic, and sales with YouTube based on what's working for me, right? It's all my best trainers. So thanks so much for watching, and feel free to join the AI Profit Board mode to connect with you personally inside there. And if you haven't already, book in a free AI strategy session if you want to become a client, right? So if you want to hire us to build automations for you, we have a link in the comments description. You can book in an AI automation session, and directly on the call, we will look at where you spend your time, help you figure out what systems to build. And then from here, you can get hands-free implementation. MV says, you see European countries in AI competition. I see China and USA there. The only one that I've seen is France, of all places, right? France, shout out to my French gang who's watching. And yeah, so I've only seen France really in the mix, and that is with using, who is it now? Yeah, it was using Mistral, right? So Mistral, they often do, they often create like really cool AIs. You can host them locally. They're often free, market leading. But yeah, that's the only European country that I've seen in the mix. So thanks so much for watching. Appreciate it as always. And I will see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.